So maybe we're overcompensating as parents today because of the way our parents raised us. So we feel like we need to be there for our kids. We need to be much more involved to the point where it's like a bit of over involvement. Now we have, the helicopter parent and we
Mm-hmm.
have the bulldozer parent. But also, I think we also grew up in a 24-hour news cycle. And you have, in 2002, there was a rash of child abductions in the United States that were well publicized. And at that time, like my first child was like 1 or 2, right? So you, as a parent, that's horrifying. The idea of someone taking your child, and so
Oh
you
yeah.
see these things, and you're thinking, oh well, this could really happen to my kid. Like Samantha Runyon was here in Orange County out of Garden Grove, who I know her mom, who's just a wonderful woman who's an advocate for child safety. But but if a parent is concerned about their child being taken by a stranger, uh, the chances of your child being abducted by a stranger, mostly children are abducted by a parent, usually custodial abductions. And there's a couple hundred a year, less than 100, but like 80 or 90 maybe a year
My
of
goodness.
of abductions by strangers. So yes, for those 80 or 90 families, and of course, in the vast majority of them, almost 90% come back within a few hours safe. But if you're that family, that's your world, that's your life. Like you're like Aaron Runyon, like that changed her in that community. Um, but if you're a parent and you're worried about your child being abducted by a stranger, and you're giving them a phone because you think this is going to keep them safe, well, it's like 0.0006% like 6% of children, or like 1 in 3.8 million, are going to be abducted by a stranger. But 20% of teens are thinking about suicide
Sorry.
on a regular basis.
Yes.
Um, we have thousands of children who are attempting suicide every year. The amount of children who are suffering from depression between 2010 and today, that percentage is up like 160% for girls,
Uh-huh.
and like 100 or 150% for girls, like 162 something like that percent for boys. So like if you were to have a graph, like the line for the objections would be just a little sliver, and then you have this
Mhm.
big bar over here, which would be suicide, depression, self-harm. Girls, um, girls who are go to the ER for non-suicidal self-injury since 2010 is up 300%.
Mhm.
So okay, so I understand the fear; it's just not reasonable.
Mhm.
Uh, your child involved in a school shooting. Now we just had one today in Georgia, which is heartbreaking.
Today?
Today, yeah, this morning. Oh no, sorry, yesterday. I beg your pardon. It was yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 4 people were killed and dozens were injured. And so again, for that community, everything's changed. But if you look in the last 20 years of school shootings, how many people have been injured? Like less than 300. So we have like 70 million children in the United States. Less than 300 were injured in a school shooting. So the chance of your child being injured in a school shooting is very low, right? It's actually a lot less than being abducted by a stranger. And if you're giving them a phone because you want them to be able to call you if they're in a school shooting, well, I can tell you because I teach how to deal with school shootings. I teach people how to do threat assessments. So I realize this is a real threat and I take it seriously. Your child should not be on their phone. Their phones
Mhm.
need to be turned off and they need to be looking at their teacher and listening for instruction if they're in a lockdown. So I've surveyed tens of thousands of parents over the last more than a dozen years. And these are the kind of things I'm hearing. But then I ask parents, do you know a family that has a kid who's not suffering from anxiety or depression?
Mm.
Do you even know a family? Like it's hard. And maybe if you don't know, it's because you haven't talked to the parent and they tell you the inside story. Like, yeah, my kid actually on the outside looks like they got it together, but
I don't
really
know a
they
single
struggle.
family like that.
I
I
don't.
don't.
I don't either.
Not even I don't know a parent that doesn't have that anxiety either. I
Yeah.
think everyone is
I think everybody's struggling to some degree, yes. But our kids, if you look at what it looked like prior to 2010,
Mhm.
leading up to 2010, it was very stable. The amount of children who are saying that they're anxious or depressed, it didn't change a whole lot. It was kind of flat. And then 2010, it does this. So there's and the good news, however, is that like we can turn this around.
Mhm.
It's just going to require parents to think very differently about this and make some very different decisions. And I make it. When I have parents sitting in my presentation, I put it on them. I'm like, this is what's
Yeah.
going on. These are the decisions you need to change or make. And sometimes you have parents who kind of cross their arms and they're just like, I can't do that.
Well, here's the issue. The danger is in the home now.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the later years, it was outside, it wasn't reachable, it wasn't like nothing like that. Now it's in your home. So there's something to be really, worried about there, that, these phones are such a danger now.
Yeah. I mean, when
These apps are a danger.
right. Well, you and I were kids and we came home and the door and closed locked behind us and you're in for the night. Your parents were like, we survived another one.
Yeah.
They can stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because the world was like literally locked outside. That barrier of your wall kept it from happening, but that barrier is gone.
It is gone.
And
It's in the bedrooms now.
it's the bedroom. I had a kiddo, middle schooler, sitting next to mom, inches away on the couch on their phone, being groomed by a predator, like happening right there.